Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is the Yukitsu Times, welcome to my channel, welcome to some of Total War Warhammer. So I played my set of 3 matches again against another player here. We're in the losers bracket. This is the match to get basically out of the losers bracket or semi out of it. Next up we have to go against Mukip, and then after that we have to play against, if we win that, against Beans again. So that will be interesting, getting that sweet revenge rematch. But yeah, we're playing up against Vox Nihili. I don't actually know how to pronounce that last bit. It's like nihilism, but I don't know how you pronounce that without the ism. Anyway, our first match here. Let's go load that up. I'm playing as the Vampire Counts, and he's playing as the Dwarves. A bit of a peculiar choice there. We're on Stir River, and now you can see I've got the Strigoi Ghoul King, 2 Banshees, 2 units of Zombies, 5 units of Graveguard with Great Weapons, 2 Direwolf Packs, 2 units of Cryptors, and the Corpse Cart with the Lodestone. He's got Thorgrim Grudgebearer, a Rune Priest, a Thane, 2 Miners, 6 Dwarf Warriors, 2 Longbeards with Great Weapons, Slayers, 3 Crossbows, and a Cannon with 3 Veterancy. So I'm not sure why people have been taking cannons with Veterancy or artillery with Veterancy, but it's a little bit weird to me. In any event, we've got ourselves a situation where he's sort of camped up in a position here. He's going to box up a little bit, but that's how you play Dwarf, so no real grudge for that. And I'm playing as Vampire Count, so I'm melee spamming. So this is kind of the default races that just have to cheese. They don't really have any other options as far as that matter goes. So we're going to be running up ahead of everything just as quickly as we can here. We've got 2 units of Direwolves that are actually hidden by that hill there. So are these units of Miners. They're also in the trees, so I can't see them at all. But what we're going to try and do is just slam into the front line of these Dwarves with our hard-hitting units while trying to get other units around the flanks and try and get some of them to disrupt these backline units or to get into the Quarrelers as the ultimate goal there. Now you can get to the Quarrelers in 2 ways. You can either get through the front so quickly that those Quarrelers and the cannon get rolled over as well. The other is to engage in such a broad front, so disperse your forces so much that these units that are in the back here have to be moved to the sides or have to be moved to assist. And that's what we're ultimately going to go for here. So we are going to try and slip units around the back lines a little bit. So he's firing away at my Corpse Cart with the Unholy Lodestone. It's a pretty decent target in that it's pretty big and it's pretty easy to hit. The only problem with using it as a target is that it really doesn't matter if it's destroyed to me all that much. It's only worth 400. It's only worth 650 points. It's relatively durable. It regenerates hit points, so it's not going to go down too quickly. So it soaks up all his damage here, but it's less than his cannon, so his cannon could have been firing at something much more meaningful, like these Cryptors or something like that. That would matter a lot more in the fight. Once we're in the fight, the Corpse Cart, if it's left to do its work, can be really potent, but it ends up getting like destroyed immediately by the Quarrelers anyway, so this cannon fire is kind of wasted. Now, my Banshees sort of run ahead, but don't worry, they're not going to actually just run into combat or anything. I just wasn't aware that they were this much faster than my army, sort of watching them go ahead, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, but I do call them back a little bit. I knew they were faster than standard units. I didn't realize they were that much faster. So, some Quarreler shots just plunking into the water near her feet. In any event, I think I start moving up with my Direwolves about now, yep, so we're going to be checking out that. At this point, I actually have got attack or charge orders on like all of my units, except for the ones that I plan on bringing wide around the flanks. So this formation here is going to get slammed into pretty hard. He has got a bit of a hill, though. That hill advantage is actually quite meaningful. I do detect these Miners on my way across, and I sort of charge into these ones, and or I might just run straight into them. I can't really remember which, but I do get a rear charge with these other Direwolves that I brought around, so we are getting a nice rear charge here, and this is going to cause lots of damage. These Miners, however, did get a good charge against these Direwolves, getting a good counter hit, so could potentially swing that for him a little bit there, but you can see that we're probably doing an okay job. Rune of Wrath and Ruin coming down, and you can see all these Quarrelers just focus firing the Corpse Cart. Again, I don't think that it's necessarily a great target because it just doesn't matter. It's a really cheap unit. I probably will stop taking it as often as I do because it doesn't really help me as much as I would like it to. Graveguard smash into the fronts of these dwarf units and start chopping them down pretty quickly. Some of them take quite a bit of damage. This one is actually hit by Rune of Wrath and Ruin, though, so that's kind of not that surprising. But you can see this Dwarf Warrior unit here taking immediate casualties, taking huge amounts of damage off that charge. The charge bonus on these guys is only plus 14, but even that is quite meaningful. We're seeing some runes coming down from the runesmith here, and we're seeing Thorgrim Grudgebearer as well as a Thane heading towards these Graveguard with Great Weapon over here. But over here we've got a unit of Graveguard and a unit of Cryptors smashing into these Dwarf Warriors pretty effectively. Now the Cryptors are taking big damage because the Quarrelers are focus firing this unit. You can even see the ones all the way across here focus firing from across there. Slayers over here trying to wind their way through this. They're trying to stop my Banshee from running into the middle of these Quarrelers, but she doesn't really care about Slayers, like they're not going to do anything. They should have moved to the Dwarf Warriors actually and had the Slayers continue fighting the Cryptors. But yeah, this Banshee is sort of stuck in there, and that's perfectly fine. I charge my General Goomba Stomp into the combat over there just to get those guys off the field. But I probably could have just ignored them. They were too out of position to do anything. Anyway, we've sort of broken through while also getting some stuff around the backside. You can see that there's also this unit of Direwolves getting into the backside here. These Quarrelers are getting charged by them. They will actually beat my Direwolves, but that does stop them firing, which lets our Cryptors live just a little bit longer here. So that's a nice thing. Runesmith over here spamming out his runes as often as he can. Zombies getting into the back line, trying to get to these Quarrelers as well. But our Banshee over here, it's just tanking away. There's nothing that they can do about her. They should have been using Thorgrim Grudgebearer to deal with the Banshees probably, but I probably just would have run from him. He's pretty slow. Alright, so the front line for the Dwarf Warriors over here getting a little bit wrecked. These ones over here did manage to lose finally. I do believe that I chase after them a little bit while getting wrecked by Thorgrim Grudgebearer, but eventually I do an attack order and they start just properly focusing on Thorgrim Grudgebearer. They deal pretty good damage to him as well, Graveguard with great weapons. It's just that they were busy killing all the dwarves instead. General charges in, gets into the Quarrelers, starts dealing some pretty good damage to them. A unit of Longbeards with great weapons comes after him, but that's not really too much to worry about. Seeing Longbeards with great weapons fighting away against these Graveguard with great weapons, as well as these zombies over here, as well as some more as my Banshee, who's fighting the Rune Priest, and one more unit of Graveguard with great weapons just for good measure, all fighting in this little corner here. This Runesmith's taking like no damage, but the Banshee is really, really quite bad at dealing damage. The one good thing about her is that she doesn't take damage, which is kind of the important thing about taking them. Got 11 kills there, it's not that bad. Getting a good job of, just doing a good job of wrecking through these Quarrelers over here, delaying all these Quarrelers from firing over here. My General, for some reason, I move him out of this fight. I don't really remember why, but I guess it didn't matter so much for him to be in there because the Graveguard with great weapon are getting in the fight takes place. These Longbeards with great weapons running in. I think they flank charge this unit of Graveguard with great weapon, and probably wreck them up quite a bit. You can see them sort of continuing their charge, spreading across a couple of units. I think he had that charge unit, your order set to over here, so that's just something that happened. In any event, though, we're continuing along as best as we can with the units that we've got, but this battle's coming pretty much over. Like, there's not a whole lot at this point in time that my opponent can actually do to win. Like, there's things that could eliminate several of my units, but that's not going to win him the fight at this point in time. Like, he's eliminated a unit Graveguard, that's fine. This unit of Cryptors and this unit of Graveguard over here, not necessarily going to do the best as they continue fighting these Slayers over here. Banshee getting in, trying to fight this Thane as well. She's not going to necessarily do huge damage to him. You can see he's slowly getting chipped down, in fact. But, yeah, like, he could flank charge those guys, and he does, in fact, do that. These units can tough it out and actually beat these units that are over here, but they can't win the game for him at this point in time. He simply doesn't have the tools or resources to really win the game anymore at this point. Charge some Graveguard and our General, I believe, into these Quarrelers over here, or just Graveguard, I can't really remember. But we're getting like a lot of kills on some of these units. Graveguard with great weapon with like 93 kills over here. That's really meaningful. This Banshee over here doing a great job. We are losing, however, these two units of Graveguard with great weapons just through attrition. They've already done quite a lot there. The unit of zombies actually is just dead, but this unit of Graveguard with great weapons already got like 100 kills. I mean, once a unit has got 100 kills, that's pretty much enough. Other Banshee able to run over into this fight here, start fighting these Longbeards with great weapons. Banshees are amazing against Longbeards with great weapons. Unit of zombies over there, just getting its ass kicked a little bit. Nothing too big a deal there. But at this point in time, my General just swoops into the combat and starts attacking Thorgrim Grudgebearer. We're charging in as well with these Cryptors, just try and deal with these Longbeards. And yeah, at this point in time, it's just mostly cleanup. Well, my opponent's units are tough and strong enough that they can tank out and probably kill a couple of these units still, especially this unit of Graveguard that have gotten 112 kills, admittedly. You know, at this point in time, there's just not a whole lot they can actually do to win it, and it's just mostly going to be cleanup. Does take a long time though for these dwarf units to actually flee, and this Thane is ridiculously durable. It's been amazing how long he's stood out in this fight here against units with great weapons and armor piercing and poison and all that other stuff. Although I'm not seeing the poison debuff on him, so I don't know what's up with that. Still, Cryptors over here getting kind of wrecked. There's only like 3 of them left, and they're taking damage pretty badly. I think we pop another Invocation on them, but I don't think that actually helps at this point. Actually it must be, since they're getting... I see the Unholy Lodestone debuff there, or buff there. At this point in time, the General gets killed by the Strigoi Ghoul King, and that is going to be the game there. So it was a long time coming, but with Dwarves, you have to grind out those last few minutes there. Now you can see that one of the main problems here is that these Dwarf Warriors just don't have the killing power that they need in these sort of situations. The Quarrelers didn't manage to do what they needed to do, although they did a little bit of what they needed to do. The Longbeards with great weapons did really fantastic. You can really see what they would have done if he had taken these guys instead of the Dwarf Warriors, the regular warriors. Slayers didn't do too well, but they were stuck against like bullshit like Banshees and stuff like that. You're not going to get a high kill count when you're doing that. Charged into Graveguard and Cryptors, so the combination's also quite hard to deal with for them. Ultimately, though, it's just that sort of over-reliance on sort of that cheap Dwarf Warrior unit for blocking. Just not really enough blocking power compared to the Longbeards with great weapons when you're up against things like Graveguard. Graveguard are simply too strong and just muscle through them too easily. So let's go ahead and check out our second match here and see how this goes for us. So we're playing as the Vampire Counts again. We're playing this one on Glacial Lake. I've got the Strigoi Ghoul King, I've got 2 White Kings, I've got 3 Zombies, 2 Skeleton Spearmen, 4 Graveguard, 2 Direwolves, 1's the Dire Pack, 3 units of Cryptors. We're up against a Orc War Boss, a Goblin War Boss, an Orc Shaman, 5 units of Goblins, 2 units of Orc Biggins, 4 units of Black Orcs, a Goblin Archer, and 2 units of Night Goblin Archers. So this is a very large infantry focus from my opponent here, and that's actually going to pay off very well. So our Strigoi Ghoul King, like, I mishandle him pretty badly in this particular one, but what I probably needed to do is just have more blocker units between this sort of area here, this sort of gap. But what I do is I charge my White King into these Night Goblin Archers that are trying to flank against me. And he actually does a good job at dealing some good damage to them quickly. He chops them up quite effectively. But it's pretty much all he manages to do is cause them to flee, and then they'll just rally later. So here you can see that happening. He's just charging in there, and these guys, the apprehension mounts pretty quickly. But he charges in with his general there, gets a bit of a counter charge going. He actually misses the charge and has to circle around before he gets the charge in. Now the White King is quite tough, quite durable, and quite good at surviving against that sort of thing. But we get another charge here with our Direwolves in against this other unit of Night Goblin Archers. The problem is that he's supporting in with these Goblins over here. Now, main combat sort of starts here. We've got a mix of Black Orcs versus our Cryptors, and against our Graveguard and stuff like that over here. We've got... I didn't realize that there was a Goblin Archer unit there, or I wasn't paying enough attention to it, so I charged my White King into this combat. What I should have done was slip through this gap and charge him into those Archers there, but I wasn't really paying enough attention. These Orc Biggins are coming around the flank here. I'm not 100% sure what they're actually aiming for, but I'm not paying enough attention to them, so my Skeleton Spearmen aren't moving to intercept. You can see lots and lots of Goblins across the front lines. These units starting to break already, but over here, just a gigantic mess. Got units fleeing from both sides. I've summoned a unit of Cryptors. We're seeing some magic missiles being flung at our general, but they don't deal huge damage anymore. Now, the Orc War Boss does actually deal good armor-piercing damage. This is something I wasn't necessarily aware of at the time, but we are poisoning him, so that is taking a little bit of the edge off there. And the White King is dealing some pretty good damage to these Goblins as well. He's got Wah up, so that's really helping his position there. But once that runs out, things are going to be relatively okay. One of the problems is that I do decide to try and get my general out of there once we start taking all these poisonous Night Goblin shots. Just because it's not a great place for a general to be. I'm surprised our Cryptors are taking this much damage, honestly. They probably I didn't think that they should be taking that much damage in this situation, but either way, our White King sort of slips out of the combat here and starts charging into this unit of Night Goblin Archers. Manages to get in there just fine, starts knocking them about. Our general gets out of that fight relatively intact. We've killed a lot of Night Goblins, and we've done pretty good damage to this general, but he's going to be fine. He does have a healing potion. I think he's popped his healing potion. No, not quite, not quite. But in any event, we got a unit of zombies finally heading over there to support. The problem here is that my opponent is taking a lot of these black orcs being extremely good against the composition I have, and are not going to be that easy for me to kill. White King over here, for some reason, stops chasing these unit of goblins. I think it's because he had to finish off that one little wee goblin that was behind him. And then he gets charged by a whole bunch of other goblins that I don't necessarily need him fighting, although he'll do fine against them regardless. Now, over here, we're losing this fight. The reason is that we got Graveguard, we're up against Black Orcs. That's just not something we can beat with that unit, so we're going to have real trouble with that. But zombies heading over towards this fight here. Now, what I probably should have done, of course, is had zombies with, Graveguard with great weapons, because they're actually pretty okay, even against other orc units, if you handle them properly. But big guns don't necessarily do that well because they don't actually have an armor-piercing attack, so you can actually use them for that purpose quite effectively. At this point in time, I probably should have just run the Strigoi Ghoul King like somewhere safe and kept him safe for the rest of the battle. That might have won me the fight there, but I acted a little bit recklessly. So he gets whacked by this orc, Gork, I don't remember which. But I charge him into these archers to try and get them to stop firing. I figured that his morale would be able to hold since he would be winning combat. And winning combat is usually something that really helps the unit's morale. But for some reason this is counting as unit losing, even though he's causing tons of damage to these guys. So his morale basically starts tanking, and he's actually going to unbind and lose. So yeah, I wonder if the unbinding damage counts as melee damage or something like that. But yeah, it doesn't look like he's losing to me. Looks like he's winning pretty hard. Racking up the kills there, but yeah, no, unfortunately for me, that is going to be the death of my general, and I did need my general to stay in this fight here. Black Orcs over here free themselves up from the fight, and they've lasted out long enough that this fight over here is not going to matter as much, which is slimly going in my favor, as opposed to that Black Orc fight, which is going very decisively in his favor. Over here, General gets charged by that Orc Shaman and dies. Over here, it doesn't matter that we outnumber our opponent and that the White King is doing really good work here. We are going to start seeing our army just crumble away very, very rapidly, and this is that sort of crumbling that ends up happening at the end of these matches when you're playing as undead. So this was well played by my opponent. Very, very good composition against me in particular. Yeah, this I think really did come down a lot to composition. Some of it could have been avoided if I had, again, put some units in that gap there. One of the things, though, that I already knew was that goblins are actually quite speedy. 33 movement is a little bit faster than anything that I field on foot, because my units are actually really, really slow. But yeah, so my opponent played this really, really well, but he chose his army very, very cleverly. Yeah, honestly, there just wasn't a whole lot that I could do with the Graveguard that I had. 4 units of Graveguard just wasn't going to be able to do anything to these 4 units of Black Orcs. And the 3 units of Cryptors are actually quite good, but they're not actually at a huge advantage against something like Black Orcs. You got to remember that Black Orcs are quite a bit more expensive. Their stats are actually quite a lot higher in the general sense, so you actually can get a lot of damage done against a unit of Cryptors with a unit like Black Orcs. It's just that Cryptors obviously are an efficient trade against them, so that's sort of the main thing to keep in mind there. I took Skeleton Spearmen, if you're wondering, just in case my opponent had like Giants or something like that, which is always something you want to worry about when you're playing as Undead, and that's actually what this army was built for, was worrying about things like Undead and worrying about things like Orc Warboy Biggins, when I shouldn't have been worrying about that. Well, I should still actually worry about that, because you never know what an Orc player is going to take, and that's that unpredictability that can sort of creep into the game. So, it's very, very hard to itemize against Orcs, and it's very hard to itemize against Empire, and that's what we're going to be up against in this final game here. So we're playing as the Beastmen. We've got a very conventional army: Malgor the Dark Omen, 2 Gorbulls, 4 units of Ungors with spears, 5 units of Gors with shields, 2 of the Poisonous Chaos Warhounds, and 2 of the Minotaurs with shields. We're up against the Empire with the General of the Empire, a Light Wizard, a Captain, 6 units of Spearmen, 2 units of Greatswords, 2 units of Crossbowmen, 2 Demigryph Knights, including the Royal Altdorf Griffites, or something like that, whatever the heck they're called. So, very conventional armies actually against one another. No artillery from the Empire, which is a little bit strange in the current setup. A lot of them like taking a mortar. But one of the things is this is a very brittle front line. Spearmen are not really a match at all for my Goreherd with shields. Goreherd with shields can punch right through them. thanks to a very, very strong charge bonus and the fact that these guys don't have a particularly good charge defense against infantry, and they can't really countercharge, so on that initial impact I deal a lot of damage to them, and then I've just got better statistics after that happens in the general sense there. The only problem, of course, being that I've got much, much less armor, but who cares about armor? So Malagor going to go ahead and pop the Cygor. He gets assassinated with Piercing Shem's Burning Gaze, but they've over-nerfed those sorts of spells, so he takes pretty much no damage from that. Especially dealing with like an infantry-based one, it's harder to hit with that. Here they do a mass charge with all their heroes, trying to cheese out my Minotaurs with shields there. I'm actually going to leave some stuff behind just in case after this net of Ammontok wears off. I can assist these guys with some other things like this Goonbowl and this unit of Ungor Spearmen. That's going to force them off that unit. His Griffins, Demigriffs sort of charge in there along the sides looking for a good flanking opportunity or to assist in this fight. I'm just looking to intercept them with Chaos Warhounds just in case they try anything too cheeky, but we managed to get our charges off on the front here, and you can start to see the damage being dealt to these Spearman herds, especially over here where we also get the Minotaurs with shields over there. So we do charge in with the unit of Chaos Warhounds just so that we can get those guys distracted, coming in to assist with a Goonbowl and with, of course, some of these Ungor Spearmen. So that whole thing's going on there. I was going to sort of assist that with another unit of Chaos Warhounds with Poison, but I decided better of it, and decided that it's more important for me to get around and try and attack these archers here, crossbowmen rather. Goreherd with shields over here just idling. I'm not sure why I was. I think I was just not paying enough attention to them. But in any event, we've got these guys going around getting ready to attack these crossbowmen. Yeah, I just wasn't paying attention to these guys. Over here, charges in with the captain, with the general, with all that other stuff. Net of Ammontok doesn't matter in this case because we're already in melee combat, dealing damage to them. I actually dislike Net of Ammontok in the current state of things, not because it's too powerful, not because it's too inexpensive mana-wise, but because its cooldown's too low. You can basically spam it as soon as it runs out. You can basically cast it again, it feels like, quite often. So it's not that punishing if you screw it up, or you can just always use it constantly. And the only thing people in practice really seem to use it for, not happening here, but happening in the ladder, is people use it to assassinate generals. They just make it so that an opponent's general can't move for whatever reason, and then suddenly there's dogpile it against it, and it's really quite lame. Over here, we're dealing with these crossbowmen. Malagor is just chasing off some random ass units here, the Goonbowl as well. We want this Greatsword unit gone permanently, so that's why we've got units still chasing after them. These Minotaurs over here doing a good job of clearing through these Greatswords shields, or these Greatswords rather. Over here, another unit of Goreherd doing a good job chopping through these Spearmen. It's actually got 55 kills already so far, and they're doing a good job of racking that up pretty quickly. Over here, the Goonbowl has defeated the captain and chased away the Demigriffs who have run into this blob over here. Not 100% sure why they decided to charge into this blob. Theoretically, it was facing the other way, but they were unengaged on that side, because the only ones engaged were the units over here, chasing down this unit of Spearmen, and those guys are gone now anyway. So these Demigriff Knights are taking some pretty bad damage in this fight here, and we're going to be able to get our Goonbowl into that fight as well. Now over here, Light Wizard coming back around to, I believe, try and tie up my general again. But our general is kind of being covered by this Goonbowl over here, so he's not that badly off. General trying to come in and attack Malagor, the Dark Omen. But Goonbowl is close enough by that it's a dangerous thing to do. You can see that's why he's backed off with his general. Goonbowl, on the other hand, is happy to just chew his way through these great swords. Goonbowl going to now fight that general. He can take out an Empire General if the Empire General is willing to sit there and take it. Over here, a couple of my units actually do break from the Demigriff Knights, who are just that powerful, but they are that expensive as well. Our Minotaurs with shields not going to do that well against these guys. These guys do have that bonus versus large, so that is quite bad for them. 56 kills from them, though, so far on my Minotaurs, and that's actually really good considering a couple of those are the Royal Outdoor Griffites. Big charge from the Goonbowl into the rear of these Royal Outdoor Griffites, and he does actually have a bonus versus large, so this is actually pretty good damage to these guys, although the bonus versus large is like 8 or something like that, so it's pretty irrelevant. Over here, Goonbowl getting into this fight with these crossbowmen, trying to get them off the field a little bit. Got another unit of Chaos Warhounds, the Poison rallying and taking out this other unit of crossbowmen. Now, he is trying to take out my general. He's just charging in with the General of the Empire there. I've been using, I believe, I forget what it's called. Let's find out in a second here. Damn, okay, I can't see. It's the single target assassination type spell in the Lore of the Beasts. Traitorkin, we've been using that not only for the slowdown of the enemy speed, but also the fact that it does pretty good damage to single target characters, and that's what's on him right now. In addition to that, the Goonbowl is going to be able to deal a lot of damage to a general of the Empire there, even though he's got Foz protection on him. Malagor, on the other hand, charging these crossbowmen, want to deal some damage to them, and more importantly, stop them from firing. He's going to do an okay job, although he's getting battered around by the Light Wizard. That's going to prevent him from ultimately doing that. Now, it doesn't actually matter if my general dies at this point in time. We have essentially got this battle won. With these units fleeing in particular, I can start bringing my Goonbowl and my remaining Minotaurs into this fight in this direction over here. And my opponent's got so many units that are kind of routing from the field that it doesn't matter tremendously what happens. The Goonbowl practically takes out the Empire General by himself there, and he just sort of buggers off. And at this point in time, you know, it's just a little bit more kills before we've cleaned up the enemy. Malagor's getting pushed around by the Light Wizard, but that doesn't particularly matter at this point. So, at this stage, just wait until my opponent's morale breaks completely, and that won't take too much longer. Too many of his units are shattered or broken. Too many of his units are just too heavily damaged to really get back into the fight. And you're going to see that sort of resulting in the remainder of his units chain routing pretty quickly. So, yeah, that was round 3. Good game to my opponent there. That last match was pretty interesting. That second match was very well played of him. This third round, I think what ultimately happened was like the Empire's front lines collapsed probably just a little bit too quickly, and he didn't have enough shooting to back them up, relying heavily on those demigryphs, and they just didn't get their points back. They did get a lot of kills at the end of the day, but you need more than just a few kills. Like 119 kills, given what they were attacking, is not that great. 97 kills is absolutely terrible considering what they were mostly attacking. A lot of them ended up killing Gores and Ungores. Just not really great things to get rid of. Chaos Warhounds with Poison. 119 of those sorts of units is not actually that cost effective for these guys, so they need to get a lot more than that. Gorbowls from my side did pretty well, but not that fantastic. The Minotaurs also didn't do too well. These guys were all fighting the sort of tougher targets, though. On the other hand, the Gore Herd with shields, really high kill counts, 103, 44, 21's kind of low, but 69 is pretty good, 95 is very, very good. They were fighting the sort of squishy front line of the Empire units there. The one unit of Greatswords did extremely well. That was the one that was not engaged in a fight against a unit of Minotaurs, if I recall correctly, or maybe he was fighting Minotaurs a little bit later. But yeah, that was my matches against my opponent. We now move on to the semifinals. We get to determine who's going to be in the finals, moving up from the loser bracket. Going to be me versus Mukip. So anyway, I hope you found this video enjoyable, and of course, as always, I hope to see you all next time.